Hello everyone, I'm Xiaoyu. Today's story gets right down to business from the first line, a legitimate daughter who has been schemed against a scumbag and a homewrecker, plus a mysterious Prince Xiao. This melon is truly big and sweet. The melon eating seats are ready. Let's dive right in. The bright red wedding dress was wrapped with golden threads, embroidered with mandarin ducks playing in water and twin lotus flowers blooming. The heavy phoenix coronet pressed down on her shoulders, reflecting festive red throughout the room. Shen Qingqi sat upright on the brocade couch in the legitimate daughter's boudoir of the Shen residence, eyes lowered, looking at the bright red nail polish on her fingertips. Her face showed gentle elegance, but her heart was as cold as ice. Today was her wedding day, marrying the great Jing dynasty's most powerful minister, who held sway over the court general protector of the nation, Xiao Jinyan. At only 25 years old, Xiao Jinyan commanded 200,000 troops at the borderlands, guarding the northern frontier with brilliant military achievements. He was the most favored minister before the emperor and the ideal husband that countless noble ladies in the capital fought tooth and nail to marry. In outsiders' eyes, Shen Qingqi, as the eldest legitimate daughter of the Shen family, obtaining this marriage was an enormous blessing, a great opportunity for the Shen family to rise in status and bring glory to their name. From now on, she would be the honorable general's wife, enjoying endless wealth and luxury, receiving endless respect and awe from everyone. But only Shen Qingxi herself knew that this seemingly glorious marriage had been a meticulously planned deception from the very beginning, a scheme to push her into the mud. She lost her father at a young age, and the power of the Shen residence had always been in the hands of her birth mother, Lady Liu. Lady Liu was extremely biased, always favoring her brother's daughter, who was Shen Qingxi's cousin Liu Ruoshe. Liu Ruosche's birth mother died early, and she had been raised in the Shen residence since childhood. She had a delicate and pitiful appearance, and was best at winning Lady Liu's sympathy. But behind the scenes, she was deeply scheming, coveting Shen Qingqi's status as the legitimate daughter at every turn, coveting everything she possessed. And that Grand General Xiao Jinyan, whom everyone feared and curried favor with, was not merely violent-tempered as the outside rumors claimed. Shen Qingxi had accidentally stumbled upon Liu Ruoxe and Xiao Jinyan meeting secretly in a secluded spot in the back garden of the Shen residence. The two embraced and whispered to each other full of affection. The look in Xiao Jinyan's eyes when he gazed at Liu Ruoxe was full of indulgence and favoritism, without a trace of the murderous aura he showed to outsiders. In that moment, she understood that Xiao Jinyan's willingness to marry the legitimate daughter of the Shen family was merely to give Liu Ruoxe a proper status, using her identity as Shen Qingxi, the legitimate daughter, to silence the officials at court, so that Liu Ruoxe could stand by his side openly and honorably as the general's wife. Lady Liu had long been in cahoots with Xiao Jinyan and Liu Ruoxe, working together to lay out this scheme, just waiting for her, Shen Qingqi, to obediently walk into the trap and become the scapegoat on the surface. Once the marriage was settled, they would casually find some excuse to discard her. How could Shen Qingqi be willing to let others manipulate her and become their pawn? On the surface, she was compliant, but secretly she had already seen through everything. She was just waiting for them to direct and act out this farce themselves, so she could take the opportunity to break free and return this hot potato to them intact. The door was gently pushed open. Lady Liu walked in carrying a white porcelain bowl, her face wearing a gentle smile rarely seen on ordinary days, though her eyes concealed a trace of urgency and calculation. She walked to Shen Qingxi's side, handed the porcelain bowl to her, and said in a soft and tender voice, "Qingxi, quickly drink this bowl of fetus-calming, heart-warming soup. Once you drink it, your body will be warm, and marrying into the general's manor will go smoothly. In the future, by the general's side, you'll also be able to bear children early and secure your position." That bowl of medicinal soup had a dark, murky color and gave off a faint, bitter smell. Others might not notice anything unusual, but Shen Qingxi had long since figured out Luxi's methods. This was no fetus-calming, heart-warming soup. It was clearly a medicinal brew that would cause relentless abdominal pain and complete physical weakness. If she drank it, she would suffer unbearable stomach pain and be unable to board the wedding sedan, which would suit their plans perfectly and create an opportunity for Liu Ruoxe to marry in her place. Shen Qingxi raised her eyes to meet Luxi's fake smile, sneering inwardly. She didn't expose her, but obediently took the porcelain bowl. Her fingertips lightly traced the rim as she pretended to be docile and compliant. She brought the bowl to her lips and tilted her head back slightly, but only touched a tiny bit of the soup with the tip of her tongue. Then she quickly turned to the side, using her sleeve to conceal her actions as she quietly poured most of the medicine onto a handkerchief she'd prepared beforehand, in her sleeve. Her movements were swift and discreet, without revealing the slightest flaw. In just a moment, she acted exactly as Lucy had anticipated, suddenly clutching her lower abdomen, her brows tightly knitted, her complexion turning deathly pale in an instant. Dense beads of cold sweat seeped from her forehead as her body went limp and she collapsed onto the bed, curling up into a ball. She bit her lower lip, letting out fragmented, anguished moans, her whole body trembling slightly. She looked utterly agonized, as if suffering unbearable abdominal pain without even the strength to get up. "Mother, my stomach hurts so much, it hurts terribly, I can't get up." Shenqingxi's voice was weak, with a sobbing tone. Her acting was so convincing that anyone who saw her would believe she was truly having a sudden illness and couldn't go through with the wedding. Seeing this, a gleam of triumph flashed in Lucy's eyes, yet she pretended to be flustered as she supported her, feigning concern as she asked, "Qingqi, what is wrong with you? How could your stomach suddenly hurt like this? The auspicious hour is almost here. We can't delay such an important matter." Though she spoke words of concern, Lucy had no intention whatsoever of calling for a physician. She only kept glancing toward the courtyard entrance from time to time, waiting for the wedding procession to lose patience, waiting for the auspicious hour to pass outside the courtyard was already bustling with activity. The wedding procession from the general's manor of the nation, stabilizing great general, was grand and imposing. The personal guards wore armor and held ceremonial implements lined up neatly before the Shen residence. Gongs and drums resounded, creating a joyous atmosphere. The steward of the general's manor, along with numerous servants, waited in the courtyard. They had sent people several times to urge the bride to come out, their tone full of emphasis on the importance of the auspicious hour. Yet Lucy repeatedly used the excuse that the bride's makeup was taking time, deliberately stalling. Her face wore a look of anxiety, but in her heart she couldn't wait for the wedding procession to leave quickly. "Wait a minute, I need to interrupt here, this bowl of so-called fetus-calming heartwarming soup. Did you notice the problem? What is it normally called when a mother gives her married-off daughter something to drink? It is called shock-calming soup, nerve-soothing soup. Not medicine that makes you collapse on the spot with abdominal pain. And the most brilliant part is, Shenqingxi actually prepared a handkerchief in her sleeve beforehand. Girl, the handkerchief on your wedding day is supposed to be for wiping tears, not for pouring poison. This generation of legitimate daughters' counter-surveillance awareness is really far ahead. The day before her wedding, all I could prepare was wedding candy and red envelopes, but she prepared anti-poison equipment, watching the sun gradually rise higher in the sky. The auspicious hour had already passed, and the wedding procession could wait no longer. The commander of the personal guard sent by Xiao Jinyan had a cold expression. The general's manor ceremonial procession could not linger long, as missing the auspicious hour would be disrespectful to the general. Accompanied by a series of orderly footsteps, the wedding procession gradually turned around, the sound of gongs and drums fading away until it completely disappeared from the front gate of the Shen residence, vanishing without a trace. Hearing the courtyard outside become completely quiet, Shenqingxi curled up on the bed without the slightest sense of loss in her heart. Instead, a surge of satisfaction welled up, though her face still maintained an expression of pain and helplessness. Lady Lu watched the wedding procession leave and could no longer keep up her gentle and loving act. The concern on her face instantly faded, replaced by meanness and fury all over. She violently shook off Shenqingxi's hand, stood up, pointed at Shenqingxi on the bed, and unleashed a torrent of curses, her voice shrill and piercing. "Shenqingxi, you useless thing. You dropped the ball at the critical moment, a perfectly good marriage ruined by you in an instant. You're absolutely infuriating. I raised you all these years, and you're completely worthless. You can't even manage to marry into the general's manor. You've wasted the Shen family's golden opportunity." She cursed with spittle flying everywhere, not caring at all that Shenqingxi was her own daughter, showing not a shred of sympathy for her illness. Her mind filled only with rage over her failed scheme to curry favor with the powerful. Shen Qingqi slowly raised her eyes, looking at her birth mother's twisted face before her, her heart completely cold. She knew it in Lady Liu's heart. She had never been a daughter, only a tool to curry favor with the powerful. Now that the tool was useless, there was only blame and disgust. After scolding enough, Lady Liu finally calmed down a bit. She snorted coldly, her tone carrying some pride as she spoke bluntly. "Do you think the marriage with the general's manor is just ruined like that? I've already made arrangements. Ruoxu is obedient and sensible, blessed with deep fortune. She has already changed into your wedding dress, put on the phoenix crown, and in the nick of time, got into the backup bridal sedan to catch up with the wedding procession to the general's manor. From now on, Ruoxu will be the rightful wife of the nation-protecting general. You just stay put in the manor obediently and don't breathe a word of this to anyone. Outside, if you ruin Ruoxu's good fortune, I won't let you off." These words completely confirmed Shen Qingxi's suspicions. She lowered her eyelids, concealing the coldness in her eyes and the smile she couldn't quite hide. Her fingertips gripped the bedsheet beneath her tightly as she forced herself to put on a look of regret and self-blame. Her eyes reddened as she began to sob softly. "Mother, I'm sorry. It is all daughter's fault for being useless, delaying the auspicious time, dragging down my cousin, and disappointing the family's expectations. Daughter feels truly guilty." Her voice choked up, looking extremely regretful, as if she was truly saddened by missing out on the marriage. But only she herself knew that deep down, her heart was already blooming with joy, feeling utterly delighted. Xiao Jinyan, that violent, ruthless, and deeply cunning tyrant, was secretly involved with Lu Ruoxue. Both were selfish people, so this stolen marriage was destined to be incomplete. Since the Liu family was so determined to have Lu Ruoxue marry into the general's manor and wanted her to take her place, then she would grant them their wish. This position of general's wife that everyone fought over, this tyrant husband that everyone feared she didn't care for it, she might as well hand it over to someone else. From now on, let Lu Ruoxue properly enjoy the storms of the general's manor, the days of living with a ruler as unpredictable as a tiger. Let this pair of scumbag man and despicable woman have a good taste of reaping what they sow. She, Shen Qingqi, would take this opportunity to free herself and stay far away from this murky water. The path ahead, she would live for herself. Those who wronged her, schemed against her, she wouldn't let a single one off. Seeing her so compliant without crying or resisting, the Liu family's anger subsided somewhat, assuming she was weak and incompetent, not daring to resist. She sternly berated her a few more times, ordering Shen Qingqi to stay obediently in her chamber and not go out or speak carelessly, then hurriedly turned and left. Busy attending to follow-up matters, fearing the substitute bride arrangement would be exposed, the room finally returned to silence. Shen Qingxi slowly straightened up, the pain and guilt on her face fading away completely, leaving only cold indifference. She raised her hand to wipe away the tear stains at the corners of her eyes, her gaze sharp and determined as she looked at the sky outside the window, the corners of her mouth curving into an icy arc. "This farce has only just begun, Xiao Jinyan, Lu Ruoxue, the Liu family, what you owe me. I will take back bit by bit every last piece. From now on, she will no longer be the legitimate daughter of the Shen family to be manipulated at will. She will seize the initiative and watch those who schemed against her fall into the abyss step by step." On the wedding night at the general's manor, red silk filled the air, lanterns blazed bright, and the entire manor was immersed in a festive atmosphere. Yet only within the bridal chamber was the mood so oppressive, it was suffocating. Lu Ruoxue, bearing Shen Qingqi's name and wearing the wedding dress that should have belonged to Shen Qingqi, sat upright on the bed in the bridal chamber, her palms clutching the corners of her clothes, both nervous and excited. She had waited too long for this day. Finally getting her wish, she married Xiao Jinyan, who commanded great armies and wielded overwhelming power and became the envied general's wife. She thought that from now on, she would possess wealth and glory, be cherished in Xiao Jinyan's palm, no longer need to read others' expressions, and no longer have to live in Shen Qingxi's shadow. But it wasn't until late at night that Xiao Jinyan, reeking of alcohol, pushed open the door to the bridal chamber. He had not a trace of a newlywed husband's tenderness. His entire body exuded a chilling hostility, his brows and eyes cold. The way he looked at Lu Ruche held not a shred of newlywed warmth, only distance and a faint disdain. Xiao Ji and Yan naturally knew that the one who married into the mansion tonight was not Shen Qingxi, but Lu Ruche. This substitute marriage was something he had tacitly approved of from the start. He needed the status of the Shen family's legitimate daughter to solidify his own power, needed a proper and legitimate wife, but he had never intended to marry Shen Qingxi. What he wanted had always been Lu Ruche. Yet even so, he still harbored reservations about Lu Roche's lowly birth. Lu Roche was merely a fatherless and motherless cousin of humble origins, without talent or virtue, unfit for respectable company. If he were to directly marry her as the general's wife, it would surely invite criticism from everyone at court. He would be mocked that the general's manor couldn't afford to marry a noble lady from a prestigious family. If not for borrowing Shen Qingxi's name, he would never have allowed Lu Ruche to so easily assume the position of the general's wife. Seeing him enter, Lu Ruche hurriedly stood up and walked forward with gentle steps, trying to reach out to support him. Her tone was soft and coquettish, full of flattery. "General, you've returned. Please sit down and rest. This concubine will serve you and help you undress." Xiao Jinyan coldly avoided her hand, his brows tightly knitted, his tone indifferent yet carrying a hint of command. "No need. Since you've already married into the general's manor and assumed the identity of Shen Qingxi, just stay in line, mind your own duties, help me keep the servants in the mansion under control. Stabilize the Shen family's influence and stop causing me trouble. If you expose even the slightest flaw and ruin my grand plan, the consequences are not something you can bear." His words were ice-cold and piercing, without a shred of affection, completely shattering the sweet fantasies in Lu Ruche's heart. She froze in place, the smile on her face stiffening, a trace of grievance rising in her heart, yet she dared not show it. She hurriedly lowered her head, putting on a docile appearance, nodding repeatedly. "The general can rest assured this concubine will definitely stay in line and absolutely won't cause the general any trouble. I will certainly manage the general's manor well, and will never fail the general's trust." As she spoke, she began deliberately slandering Shen Qingxi again, trying to win Xiao Jinyan's favor. "Elder sister also has such meager fortune, unable to enjoy such a fine marriage. She just had to fall suddenly ill on the wedding day, delaying the auspicious hour. How could she compare to the general's kind heart, willing to accept this concubine? This concubine truly admires the general and will definitely stay wholeheartedly by the general's side. Absolutely not delicate and useless, like elder sister." Upon hearing this, Xiao Jinyan merely cast her a cold glance without responding. His impression of Shen Qingxi remained that of a weak, delicate, and utterly useless legitimate daughter of the Shen family. Too lazy to bother with Lu Ruche's pretentious act, he walked straight to the table, sat down, and drank alone, leaving Lu Ruche aside. For the entire night, he did not share a bed with her. Lu Ruche spent the wedding night alone in an empty room, sitting in her bridal gown until dawn. Filled with both anger and resentment, she could only suppress her emotions and blamed all her grievances on Shen Qingxi, believing it was Shen Qingxi's ill fortune that caused her to suffer such cold treatment on her wedding night. At this time in the Shen residence, Shen Qingxi's days were far from easy. After settling matters at the general's manor and returning to the Shen residence, Madame Liu became even more harsh toward Shen Qingxi. Fearing that Shen Qingxi might harbor resentment and leak the matter of the substitute bride, she directly ordered Shen Qingxi to be confined to the most remote and dilapidated small courtyard in the mansion, dismissed most of the servants attending to her, leaving only Qingju, a maid who had followed her since childhood and was utterly loyal. Not only that, Lady Liu also withheld Shen Qingxi's monthly allowances for clothing and food. The charcoal for heating and meals in her courtyard were the worst in the mansion, and she wouldn't even give her an extra cotton coat for winter. Lady Liu instructed the servants in the courtyard not to show Shen Qingxi any kindness, allowing them to mistreat her, wanting to completely grind down her edges and corners, make her completely resigned to her fate, and not dare to resist. Qingju watched her young miss being mistreated like this and felt furious in her heart, crying all day long and feeling indignant for Shen Qingxi. "Miss, madam is really too biased. Clearly they schemed against you and had the cousin miss take your place in the marriage. Yet now they still mistreat you. This is too unfair." Why don't we make this matter public and let everyone see Madam and cousin Mrs. true colors? But Shen Qingxi held her back, shook her head, her tone calm and indifferent. What is the use of making it public? Now it is a done deal. Lu Ruoshe has already entered the general's manor and become the legitimate general's wife. We are weak and powerless. If we act rashly, we'll only bring trouble upon ourselves. Don't worry, we'll settle this account slowly. Right now, the most important thing is to endure and collect evidence. She was no longer that naive and ignorant young girl. After her father's death, she had moved carefully step by step in the Shen residence and had long learned to endure and scheme. Facing Lady Liu's mistreatment, she didn't make a fuss or cause trouble, submitting meekly to adversity. Every day she quietly stayed in her small courtyard, reading and practicing calligraphy, appearing indifferent to worldly affairs. But in reality laying plans in secret. She had Qingju carefully come and go in the mansion, secretly investigating the movements of the general's manor and the Liu family, keeping all matters in her heart. Qingju was quick and nimble and utterly loyal, always able to smoothly gather information and report it all to Shen Qingxi. Just 3 days after the wedding, Xiao Jingyan and Lu Ruoshe stopped concealing their relationship, completely revealing their filthy true faces. Xiao Zhenyan no longer showed Lu Ruoshe a cold face and began frequently spending nights in Lu Ruoshe's courtyard. The two were always together, completely unabashed in front of the servants of the general's manor, relying on Xiao Jingyan's favor. Lu Ruoshe instantly became arrogant and domineering, forgetting her substitute bride identity, forgetting her lowly birth, and began trying to manage the household affairs of the general's manor, bossing around the old servants in the mansion, beating and scolding them at will. The old servants of the general's manor were all veterans who had followed Xiao Jingyan for many years, well experienced and shrewd as could be. They could tell at a glance that this new madam behaved strangely, with not a trace of the bearing of a legitimate daughter from a prestigious family in her words and actions, but instead reeked of pettiness, arrogance, and meanness. Though the servants harbored doubts in their hearts, they dared not speak out due to Xiao Jingyan's authority, but inwardly they were already full of complaints and very dissatisfied with this new madam. What is even more outrageous is that Xiao Jingyan, as the Grand General who protects the nation, bears the important responsibility of military marriage. He has always been strict with military discipline, and the court has stringent rules regarding soldiers' marriages. Military marriage concerns military discipline and honor, strictly prohibiting private arrangements and deception of the court. Yet, Xiao Jingyan treats military discipline as nothing. For the sake of Lu Ruoshe, he acts recklessly and willfully, not only tacitly allowing the deception of the substitute bride, but also indulging Lu Ruoshe in meddling with military affairs, and even privately diverting some military supplies to support the Liu family. Qingju relayed all this information she had gathered to Shen Qingxi, her tone indignant. Miss, the general and cousin Miss have gone too far. They disregard military discipline, deceive their superiors, and hide the truth from subordinates. Cousin Miss also bullies others with her power, acting tyrannically at the general's manor. Madam is still strutting around in the mansion, showing off cousin Miss's glory everywhere. After listening, Shen Qingxi paused slightly with the teacup in her hand, the corners of her mouth curving into a faint cold smile, her eyes full of mockery. She had long predicted that these two would not behave themselves. Xiao Jianyan appears tyrannical and domineering, but in reality he is stubborn and self-willed, indulging his pillow companion, disregarding military discipline. Sooner or later, he'll bring disaster upon himself. Lu Ruoshe is narrow-minded and vain. Having gained a bit of power, she becomes arrogant and overbearing, destined to be unable to hold onto this stolen wealth and status. They thought that by stealing her marriage, they could sit back and enjoy wealth and honor living peacefully, never realizing they had already set foot on a path to certain doom. Shen Qingxi calmly instructed Qingju, "Continue investigating. Record everything they've done, whether it is evidence of Xiao Jingyan violating military discipline and indulging Lu Ruoshe, or the madam embezzling Shen residents' assets and secretly supporting the Liu family. Write it all down. Keep it safe and don't alert them." She knew very well that now was not the time to strike. Xiao Jingyan commanded heavy troops and was at the height of his power. Lu Ruoshe was currently favored, and Madame Liu was also riding high in the mansion. Acting rashly would only be like throwing an egg against a rock. What she had to do was watch coldly from the sidelines, watch them act recklessly, watch them slowly reveal more flaws due to their greed and selfishness, slowly develop rifts between them. She had in her hands a small portion of her father's old network of contacts, as well as the private assets and dowry her mother left her before passing away. These were all her confidence. She would slowly accumulate strength, gather power, and wait for the most opportune moment to strike with precision, ensuring that those who schemed against her and humiliated her would never have a chance to turn things around again. The winter wind blew through the dilapidated window frame into the small courtyard, carrying wisps of cold air, yet Shen Qingqi's gaze was incomparably resolute. She wasn't afraid of the predicament before her, wasn't afraid of others' harsh treatment. She knew the darkness was only temporary when dawn arrived. She would reclaim everything that belonged to her and make those wicked people pay a painful price. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, half a month had passed since Liu Ruche married into the nation-stabilizing general's manor. With Xiao Jianian's indulgence, Liu Ruche's days at the general's manor became increasingly comfortable. She completely secured her position as the general's wife, held the household management authority, and her food, clothing, and necessities were all top grade. The pearl and jade jewelry she wore were all priceless treasures, making her even more prestigious than some princesses in the capital. She had long forgotten her identity as a substitute bride, forgotten the days when she lived under someone else's roof at the Shen residence, and had become increasingly arrogant and domineering, looking down on everyone. She had visited every noblewoman of some status in the capital one by one, using the title of general's wife to show off everywhere, enjoying everyone's flattery and fawning, her vanity greatly satisfied. But there was always a thorn in her heart, and that was Shen Qingxi. She always felt that her current glory was snatched from Shen Qingxi's hands. As long as Shen Qingxi was still alive at the Shen residence, she felt uncomfortable, felt that Shen Qingxi was watching and laughing at her from the shadows. Add to that Xiao Jinyan's cold treatment on their wedding night. She blamed all her misfortunes on Shen Qingxi, determined to find an opportunity to humiliate Shen Qi and make her bow down and submit. On this day, Liu Ruoxie deliberately requested permission from Xiao Jinyan, bringing generous gifts, followed by a group of personal guards and servants from the general's manor, returning to the Shen residence in grand procession. Under the pretense of visiting family, she actually came specifically to show off to Shen Qingxi, wanting to thoroughly humiliate her. When Lady Liu learned that Liu Ruoxie had returned to the residence, she was so excited that she personally went out to greet her. Pulling Liu Ruoxie's hand, she asked after her well-being with eyes full of affection and pride, praising Liu Ruoxie endlessly, lauding her as if she were unmatched in heaven and earth. By contrast toward Shen Qingxi, who was confined to the small courtyard, she showed even more disdain. Liu Ruche pretended to be modest, accepting Lady Liu's praises, then insisted on visiting Shen Qingxi. Her tone was gentle, putting on an act of deep sisterly affection. "Aunt, I haven't seen sister for a long time and miss her dearly. Now that I've received gifts from the general, I specially brought some good things to visit sister, and also to keep her company and have a chat." Lady Liu naturally understood her intentions and promptly nodded in agreement, leading her all the way toward the remote small courtyard where Shen Qingxi resided. The small courtyard was dilapidated and desolate, forming a stark contrast with the prosperous liveliness of the front courtyard of Shen residence. The plants in the yard were withered and yellow, fallen leaves covered the ground with no one to sweep them, and the furnishings inside the room were simple and crude, without even a single decent piece of furniture. Shen Qingxi was sitting by the window quietly reading a book. Dressed in plain cloth with no jewelry whatsoever, she still could not conceal the elegant temperament surrounding her. Seeing Liu Ruoxie and Lady Liu leading a great procession of servants entering in grand fashion, Shen Qingxi slowly put down the book in her hands, raised her eyes to look, her expression calm without the slightest ripple, neither envy nor anger, as if everything before her had nothing to do with her. Liu Ruoxie walked into the courtyard, looking down at Shen Qingxi from above, her eyes full of smugness and mockery. She wore everyday clothes altered from luxurious cloud brocade wedding garments. A hairpin of pure gold inlaid with rubies adorned her head, jewels and treasures gleamed all over her body, and the personal guards beside her exuded an imposing aura. Fully displaying the prestige of a general's wife, she walked forward with feigned intimacy, wanting to help Shen Qingqi up, and said in a phony tone, "Sister, your younger sister has come to see you. I heard that you've suffered grievances in the mansion these days, and I feel terribly sad about it. I specially brought lots of silk jewelry and fine food to see you. Don't blame Auntie for being heartless, it is just that you delayed the auspicious time on your wedding day. If she didn't confine you to your quarters, it might have displeased the general's manner and implicated the entire Shen residence." She paused, her tone growing even more smug, and continued, "But don't worry, sister. Everything is going well for me at the general's manor now. The general dotes on me very much. I'll put in many good words for you in front of the general and have Auntie treat you better. You should also behave yourself and not foolishly covet things that don't belong to you. After all, not everyone has the fortune to marry the general and become the general's wife." I'm breaking a sweat for Shen Qingqi while also finding it hilarious. Sister Lu Ruoshe, you come charging back with your personal guards in a grand procession, wearing stolen finery adorned with pilfered jewels, and then say to the rightful owner living in a shabby little courtyard, "You need to know your place. You don't have the fortune for this. Who wrote this script for you?" Your level of self-satisfaction has me almost impressed, and she hasn't realized that all this move of voluntarily coming to the door, what is that called on the battlefield? It is called feeding kills. Shen Qingqi has been gathering evidence for so long, waiting for the right moment, and Lu Ruoshe, you just swagger right up and stick your face out there. I really want to thank you on her behalf. Every single word of this speech was showing off her own glory, mocking Shen Qingqi for her meager blessings and bitter fate, for lacking the fortune to enjoy the position of general's wife, the sense of superiority. Dripping from her words couldn't be more obvious. Lady Lu chimed in from the side as well, her face cold as she berated Shen Qingqi. "Qingqi, look at how sensible Ruoxu is, still thinking of you in her heart. Why don't you hurry up and thank your cousin?" If Ruoxu hadn't married in your place, the Shen family would have offended the general long ago and met with the fate of having our entire household executed. How could you be living peacefully in the mansion? Hurry up and bow to Ruoxu in gratitude. The servants nearby also lowered their heads, whispering among themselves. The looks they cast at Shen Qingqi carried mockery and contempt, all thinking that Shen Qingqi was useless, having wasted such a good marriage prospect, and now could only watch her cousin bask in unlimited glory. If it were the Shen Qingqi of the past, she might have shed aggrieved tears, might have angrily refuted, but the current her had long seen through the hypocritical faces of this mother-daughter pair and couldn't be bothered to pretend anymore. Shen Qingqi slowly stood up, her posture upright, spine straight, without a trace of humility or timidity. Her eyes were cold and clear, her gaze sharply fixed on Lu Ruoshe. Her tone was calm, yet every word rang out forcefully, carrying an unquestionable power that instantly tore apart Lu Ruoxu's hypocritical mask. "Cousin, you needn't put on this fake show of kindness. You returned to the manor today. Where is this about visiting me? Clearly you came to show off your glory, to humiliate me. Only cousin has forgotten that this position of general's wife was originally my bridal garment. What you're sitting in now is merely a stolen title. What you're wearing are snatched hairpins and jade. Being so comfortable with this, aren't you afraid of waking up in the middle of the night with a guilty conscience?" Lu Ruoxu's face changed drastically, turning deathly pale in an instant. She never expected Shen Qingqi would dare to expose her in public. Panicking for a moment, she then threw a tantrum and started wailing, running to Lady Lu's side while wiping her tears and complaining. "Auntie, look at sister. How could she say such things about me? I came to see her out of goodwill, but she slanders me and is jealous that I'm doing well. This is too much. If the general knew sister treated me like this, he would definitely stand up for me." Seeing this, Lady Lu immediately flew into a rage, pointing at Shen Qingqi and scolding harshly. "Shen Qingqi, how dare you? To slander Ruoxu like this, apologize to Ruoxu at once." Shen Qingqi let out a cold laugh, her eyes icy, no longer showing any mercy. "I'm slandering her? Whether I've slandered her or not, she knows clearly in her own heart, and you know it too. Mother, do you think the filthy things you've done are unknown to anyone?" As her words fell, she raised her hand to signal, and Qingju immediately stepped forward, taking out a stack of evidence that had been prepared long ago and spreading it before everyone. There were tokens from Liu Rushe and Xiao Jianyan's secret trysts, letters they exchanged expressing their feelings, and detailed accounts of Lady Liu using the Shen residence's money to secretly support the Liu family, embezzling the Shen residence's assets and withholding Shen Qingxi's dowry. Every transaction, every item recorded clearly and verifiably, leaving no room for denial. Lady Liu and Liu Ruoshe looked at the evidence before them, their faces instantly turning deathly pale, their entire bodies trembling, their eyes filled with terror. They never imagined that Shen Qingxi had long ago collected all this evidence and had been patiently holding back, just waiting for this very moment. Shen Qingqi stepped forward, pressing them relentlessly, her tone ice cold and resolute. Xiao Jinyan, as the great general who protects the nation, bears the joint responsibility of a military marriage bound by Yan's strict military discipline. The court has explicitly forbidden soldiers from privately Zhao engaging in unauthorized dealings and deceiving the court. You conspired together, deceived everyone, substituted a concubine-born daughter for the legitimate one, corrupted military discipline, and deceived the sovereign. If this matter reaches the court and gets to His Majesty, Xiao Jinyan will at the very least lose his position and be dismissed, at worst be thrown in prison. The Xiao family, the Liu family, all will face execution of the entire clan. Mother, are you sure you want to sacrifice the entire Shen residence for the sake of cousin? Her words struck like thunderbolts beside Lady Liu and Liu Ruoshe's ears, causing them both to panic completely. They had only focused on scheming over the marriage arrangement, only focused on enjoying wealth and glory, but had forgotten Xiao Jinyan's status, forgotten the harshness of military law, forgotten that deceiving the court was a capital offense. Liu Ruoxie was so frightened her legs went weak. Gone was her earlier arrogant bluster, the smugness and domineering air on her face vanished without a trace, leaving only overwhelming fear. She no longer dared to raise a ruckus or humiliate Shen Qingqi, terrified that Shen Qingqi would really make this evidence public and leave her utterly ruined with nowhere to be buried. Madame Liu also panicked, looking at the evidence with ice-cold hands and feet. She could disregard Shen Qingxi's life and death, but she couldn't disregard the Shen residence's safety. If she really angered Shen Qingxi and the matter blew up, the Shen family would definitely be implicated, and everything she had painstakingly built would turn to bubbles. In an instant, Madame Liu's attitude did a complete 180. She no longer dared to berate Shen Qingqi, and instead put on an ingratiating expression, placating her in a humble tone. "Qingqi, Mother was confused. We were in the wrong, don't be angry, and definitely don't let this blow up. Mother promises you, I'll immediately lift your confinement, return all your dowry, and never mistreat you again. Whatever you want, Mother will agree to it all. I only beg you not to spread word of this matter." Liu Rushe also hurriedly wiped away her tears, keeping her head down, not daring to look at Shen Qingqi anymore. Her tone humble, she apologized repeatedly. "Sister, I was wrong. I shouldn't have come to provoke you or show off. I beg you to spare me this once. I'll never dare do it again." Watching this mother and daughter pair's arrogant then submissive behavior before her, Shen Qingxi felt not a shred of pity in her heart, only Maman the Chalfeng. This was her birth mother, her cousin, who normally treated her with all kinds of harshness and strutted about bullying her, but the moment it touched their own interests, they immediately groveled and kowtowed, weak and pathetic. Shen Qingqi spoke coldly. "I'm not making a fuss today, not because I'm afraid of you, but because I can't be bothered to argue with you. You remember this from now on. Don't come swaggering around in front of me anymore. Don't come provoking me. If there is a next time, I definitely won't show mercy, and I'll make sure everyone sees how you two scumbags stole the marriage arrangement and violated military discipline." Lady Liu and Liu Ruoshe nodded repeatedly, not daring to utter half a word of rebuttal, and hurriedly led the group of servants away from this remote little courtyard in disgrace, no longer daring to say half a word to humiliate Shen Qingxi. After this incident, Shen Qingqi completely escaped the predicament of being grounded. Lady Liu obediently lifted the confinement order, returned all her dowry, and no longer dared to withhold her clothing and food or mistreat her at will. The servants in the mansion trimmed their sails to the wind, seeing Shen Qingqi being so forceful that even the lady and the young cousin dared not oppose her. They no longer dared to look down on her and showed her respectful courtesy one after another. Qingju watched her young miss stand tall and proud, her heart surging with excitement. "Miss, you're truly amazing. Finally, they don't dare bully us anymore." Shen Qingqi smiled faintly, her gaze resolute. "This is only the beginning. What they owe me, I'll collect bit by bit. Next, we should properly deal with that person from the general's manor." Liu Ruoxie had been humiliated at the Shen residence, publicly slapped down by Shen Qingqi, and was frightened out of her wits. After returning to the general's manor, the more she thought about it, the more unwilling she felt, her heart full of resentment. She didn't dare tell Xiao Jinyan the truth, only thinking of sowing discord and inciting Xiao Jinyan to deal with Shen Qingqi to vent her anger. As soon as she saw Xiao Jinyan, she immediately threw herself into his arms, crying pitifully like pear blossoms in the rain, extremely aggrieved and sobbed with embellishments. "General, you must stand up for this concubine." This concubine kindly returned to the Shen residence today to visit elder sister, but elder sister not only didn't appreciate it, she also hurled vicious words at this concubine, cursed me in every way, and even produced some fabricated evidence to slander this concubine. And the general, threatening to make a big fuss out of this matter and ruin the general's reputation. This concubine feels so wronged. Xiao Jinyan was inherently arrogant and obstinate, unable to tolerate anyone's provocation. Hearing that the woman he doted on had been wronged and humiliated by Shen Qingqi like this, he immediately flew into a rage. A fierce and chilling murderous aura instantly surged around him, and his face turned terrifyingly dark. In his eyes, Shen Qingqi was nothing but a weak, incompetent, helpless orphan girl who dared to be so arrogant, insult his beloved, and even threaten him she simply didn't know whether she was alive or dead. He immediately put on his armor, brought a team of elite personal guards, and rushed furiously towards Shen residence, determined to teach Shen Qingqing a harsh lesson, force her to apologize to Liu Ruoxie, and let her know the consequences of offending him, Xiao Jinyan. In mere moments, Xiao Jinyan barged into Shen residence with his personal guards, clad in full armor with murderous aura billowing around him. His chilling presence intimidated everyone in Shen residence into trembling and kneeling on the ground, not daring to raise their heads. Lady Liu hid to the side, her face deathly pale with fright, secretly praying in her heart that Shen Qingqi wouldn't provoke Xiao Jinyan's anger and implicate Shen residence. Xiao Jinyan strode forward with great momentum, heading straight toward Shen Qingqi's courtyard. He kicked the door open with one foot, staring at Shen Qingqi with icy eyes, sternly rebuking in a voice like thunderclaps that made one's eardrums ache. "Shen Qingqi, what audacity you have! How dare you insult this general's wife? How dare you utter threats? You simply don't know whether you're alive or dead. Today you must kneel and apologize to Ruoxie, otherwise this general will make you pay a painful price, annul your engagement with the Shen family, and ensure you never rise again for all eternity." The murderous aura surrounding him was intense. His hand gripped a sword at his waist, his gaze ruthless, as if the moment Shen Qingqi dared to say a single word of refusal, he would immediately draw his sword against her. The entire courtyard of personal guards held their weapons, their presence imposing. The atmosphere of the entire courtyard instantly became tense to the extreme. Lady Liu was so frightened that she immediately knelt down to plead, "General, calm your anger. General, calm your anger. It is all because Qingxi is ignorant. This old one will certainly discipline her properly. I beg the general to spare her this once." Liu Ruoxie hid behind Xiao Jingyan, revealing half her face. The look she directed at Shen Qingqi was full of smugness and schadenfreude, waiting to see Shen Qingqi be dealt with by Xiao Jingyan and the miserable sight of her kneeling and begging for mercy. But facing Xiao Jinyan, who commanded a massive army and had a violent temperament, Shen Qingqi showed not the slightest trace of fear. She still stood straight with her back upright, her posture tall and firm, her gaze cold and clear, meeting Xiao Jinyan's icy stare without any fear or retreat. She slowly spoke, her tone calm, yet every word hitting the mark, each sentence striking at Xiao Jinyan's vital points. "The general wants me to calm his anger. What wrong have I done? The one at fault is the general. It is the general who treats military discipline as nothing. It is the general who secretly exchanged tokens with his cousin, deceiving superiors and concealing the truth, replacing the legitimate wife with a concubine's daughter, corrupting the rules of military marriage, and yet you question me." Doesn't the general find this laughable? Hearing this, Xiao Jinyan's expression darkened further, and he shouted angrily, "Insolent, how dare you spout such nonsense and slander this general?" Whether I'm spouting nonsense or not, the general knows clearly in his heart. Shen Jingxi's gaze was sharp, staring directly at him, her tone forceful and resonant. The general is the great Jing dynasty's grand general who stabilizes the nation, commanding 200,000 troops at the northern border, guarding the nation's gate, bearing great responsibility. The court has always valued military discipline and has strict laws regarding military marriages. When soldiers marry, they must report to the court, wed with proper matchmaking, strictly prohibiting private illicit affairs, strictly prohibiting deceiving the emperor and corrupting military discipline. The general has been secretly involved with Lu Roche in private, which has long violated the marriage contract. Then he conspired with the Shen family to deceive everyone, having Lu Roche marry into the manor in her place, deceiving His Majesty and all the civil and military officials of the court. Each and every one of these acts is a grave crime that violates military regulations and the law. If I compile this evidence into a document, report it to the Ministry of War, and present it to His Majesty, what do you think His Majesty will do, General? Shen Qingqi paused, looking at Xiao Jinyan's gradually changing expression, and continued, "The general controls a massive army and wields overwhelming power. His Majesty has long been wary of the general only lacking a handle against him. Now that the general has committed the grave crimes of military marriage misconduct and deceiving the sovereign, this is the perfect opportunity for His Majesty to suppress the general. When that time comes, at best, the general will be stripped of military authority and dismissed from office. At worst, he will be imprisoned and his entire clan executed. The glory of the Xiao family accumulated over generations will be destroyed in an instant." Is the general certain he wants to gamble the entire Xiao family's future for Lu Roche? As her words fell, Shen Qingxi raised her hand. Xingzhu once again produced that complete stack of evidence, along with another stack of new proof evidence that Xiao Jinyan had indulged Lu Roche in interfering with military affairs and privately misappropriating military grain and resources to support the Liu family. Every piece was authentic, every word clear, all capital offenses that crossed the military's bottom line. Xiao Jingyan looked at the evidence, his expression instantly changing from gloomy to deathly pale, a flash of panic crossing his eyes. He had always thought he'd done everything flawlessly, never taking Shen Jingqi seriously, but never expected that this seemingly fragile legitimate daughter of the Shen family had long ago grasped all his weaknesses, each one precisely hitting his vulnerable spots. He knew in his heart that what Shen Jingqi said was all true. He commanded a large army, his achievements threatening the throne, and the emperor had long been suspicious of him. If the emperor caught him in misconduct regarding his military marriage and violating military discipline, the emperor would certainly seize the opportunity to strip him of his military authority and suppress the Xiao family. By then, his years of effort and the power in his hands would all turn to nothing, and he might even end up dead with his entire clan exterminated. He had always underestimated Shen Qingqi, thinking she was just a soft persimmon for anyone to squeeze, not knowing that, though she seemed fragile, she was actually clever and decisive, meticulous in thought, had long seen everything clearly, and held in her hands leverage enough to bring about his utter ruin. Xiao Jingyan's hand gripping his sword slightly loosened, the murderous aura around him gradually dissipating, and the ruthlessness in his eyes was replaced by a trace of wariness. Looking at the calm, composed, and imposing Shen Qingqi before him, he felt powerless for the first time, no longer having the arrogant swagger from moments ago. Shen Qingqi looked at him, her tone calm yet carrying an unquestionable authority. "General, I have never thought of fighting for the position of the general's wife, never thought of becoming your enemy. This marriage was you scheming against me, humiliating me from the start. I only wanted to live peacefully and protect the Shen residents well, never thought of provoking anyone. If the general dares to indulge Lu Roche in provoking me again in the future, dares to bring troops to barge into the Shen residence and make things difficult for me again, I will risk everything and drag you all down with me, make all the evidence public, let the general's reputation be ruined. Let everything Lu Roche stole turn into nothing but bubbles. Her words carried not a hint of threat, yet every word revealed her determination, making Xiao Jingyan not dare to take her lightly in the slightest. Xiao Jingyan fell silent for a long while, weighing the pros and cons in his heart, deeply aware that he couldn't confront her head-on. He looked deeply at Shen Qingqi, his eyes full of wariness and complexity. In the end, he forcibly suppressed the rage in his heart and said coldly, "You're ruthless." Having said that, he no longer mentioned making Shen Qingxi apologize. He turned around and coldly ordered his guards behind him, "Return to the residence." Afterwards, he led his guards and left the Shen residence without looking back, leaving Lu Ruoxie stunned in place, her face full of shock, unable to believe that the always tyrannical and domineering Xiao Jingyan would just let Shen Qingqi go like this, and leave in such a sorry state. Xiao Jingyan returned to the general's manor, his heart full of frustration and rage, yet with nowhere to vent. Looking at Lu Ruoxie before him, crying and stirring up trouble, he no longer felt the affection and indulgence of the past, but instead was filled with dissatisfaction and irritation. He felt that if Lu Ruoxie hadn't caused trouble and gone to the Shen residence to provoke Shen Qingxi, he wouldn't have ended up in such an embarrassing situation, wouldn't have been caught by a weak woman who now had leverage over him, trapping him in such a passive position. His former favoritism toward Lu Ruoxie was gradually replaced by dissatisfaction, and the rift between them fully revealed itself at this moment. Lu Ruoxie looked at Xiao Jingyan's cold attitude toward her, feeling both panicked and frightened. Not knowing where the problem lay, she only felt that Xiao Jingyan had changed his heart, and she resented Shen Qingqi even more. Meanwhile, at the Shen residence, Shen Qingqi stood in the courtyard, watching the direction where Xiao Jingyan had left, a cold smile curling at the corner of her mouth. This time, she had firmly established her position, intimidated Xiao Jingyan, and ensured that Lady Liu and Lu Ruoxie would no longer dare provoke her easily. She knew that after this incident, Xiao Jingyan and Lu Ruoxie would inevitably harbor resentment toward each other and blame one another. As for her, she only needed to wait for the right moment and watch this scumbag and homewrecker go from loving devotion to mutual suspicion, and infighting ultimately leading to their destruction. Ever since Xiao Jingyan suffered a setback at Shen residence and was caught red-handed by Shen Qingxi, slinking away with his troops in disgrace, his attitude toward Lu Ruoxie underwent a complete transformation. The affection and indulgence of the past vanished without a trace. He no longer frequently stayed overnight in Lu Ruoxie's courtyard, no longer allowed her to meddle in the mansion's affairs. When she cried, he was annoyed. When she acted coquettish, he showed her a cold face. If she said a few more words, he would leave with a flick of his sleeves, not even sparing her a proper glance. The servants at General's Manor were all shrewd. Reading the room and adapting accordingly was a skill ingrained in their bones. As soon as the master's expression changed, those below immediately followed suit. Most of the maids serving Lu Ruoxie were dismissed. Her food, clothing, and expenses were quietly reduced, and even the charcoal in her courtyard was 2 whole baskets less than before. No one said it outright, but everyone could tell this general's wife had fallen out of favor. Lu Ruoxie sat before the bronze mirror, gazing at that haggard face in the reflection, her heart churning with towering fury. She was unwilling to accept this. She had stolen this position. How much scheming had she done? How much humiliation had she endured? And after finally securing it, why should she have to hand it over just because of that bitch? Shen Qingxi, she began to use every means possible to curry favor with Xiao Jingyan. Lowering herself, carefully attending to him, grinding ink for him, warming wine for him, massaging his shoulders for him, turning herself into a puppet without a temper. But the way Xiao Jingyan looked at her was increasingly like looking at an eyesore of a decoration. One day, she walked into the study carrying a ginseng soup she'd personally prepared, but Xiao Jingyan didn't even lift his head, only saying coldly, "Put it down, get out." Lu Ruoxie's hand trembled slightly, and some of the ginseng soup spilled onto her sleeve, scalding a small red mark. She lowered her head, placed the soup bowl on the desk, turned and walked out, pausing at the doorway. "General," her voice was extremely low, carrying a trace of pleading she herself hadn't noticed, "do you not like me anymore?" In the study there was a long silence. Then Xiao Jingyan's voice came out, cold and careless, as if discussing some trivial matter. "Do you know what your biggest problem is?" Lu Ruoxie didn't speak. You think you married in because I like you." He paused, his tone carrying a hint of mockery. "What I need is the status of the Shen family's legitimate daughter, the Shen family's connections and financial power. You are nothing more than a substitute. A substitute should have the awareness of being a substitute." These words were like a knife, piercing precisely into the deepest part of Lu Ruox's heart. Okay, I need to take a deep breath. A substitute should know their place as a substitute. Xiao Jinyan, when you said those words, did you even know what you were saying? You married her for status to elevate yourself, and after using her, you twist the knife by calling her just a substitute. You think you're telling the truth, but have you ever considered that you yourself are just a stepping stone for Lu Ruoxo to climb up? These two people use each other as tools, then look down on each other for being tools. Isn't this the textbook definition of reaping what you sow? The whole thing felt like watching two people fight over a chair that was poisoned from the start. Whoever sits on it pays the price. Meanwhile, Shen Qingxi's sitting on the sidelines sipping tea waiting for the outcome. I think she is the one with the most stable mindset in this entire story. She stood at the doorway, not moving for a long time. Then, slowly, she closed the door. On her face, there were no tears, only something thorough, ice-cold, and resolute quietly, igniting in the depths of her eyes. From that day on, Lu Ruoxu changed. She no longer cried, no longer made a fuss, no longer tried to please, no longer attempted to salvage anything. She began to collect. She used the account books she'd accessed when managing the household, the military secrets Xiao Jinyan had inadvertently let slip while drunk, and every single detail she'd quietly noted down during these few months at the general's manor, bit by bit compiling evidence of Xiao Jinyan's crimes into a record. It wasn't that she hadn't thought about the consequences, but she had no way back anymore. Xiao Jinyan won't let her go, Shen Qingxi won't let her go, and the Liu family is already tottering due to Xiao Jinyan's fall from power. Her only way out is to drag Xiao Jinyan down to hell with her before she is completely trampled to death. She found a rough servant woman who was watching over her but harbored resentment toward Xiao Jinyan, and secretly passed those incriminating evidence out. Letter by letter, the officials in court who were hostile to Xiao Jinyan soon received these things. Impeachment memorials, like snowflakes, were delivered to His Majesty's desk. By the time Xiao Jinyan traced the source of the leaked information to the side courtyard where Lu Ruoxo was staying, it was already late at night. Wind and rain battered down, the lanterns under the corridor swayed in the wind, scattering light and shadows in all directions. He kicked open the door of the side courtyard and strode in with two trusted subordinates. Lu Ruoxo sat on the bed, and upon hearing the footsteps, slowly raised her head. She wasn't panicked, nor was she crying. She just looked at him calmly, her eyes filled with a deathly stillness of burning bridges. "It is you." Xiao Jinyan's voice was low and dangerous, as if squeezed out through clenched teeth. "It is you who leaked those things. It is me." Lu Ruoxo admitted calmly, without a trace of fear in her tone. "What, is the general going to kill me?" Xiao Jinyan stared at her, the rage in his eyes almost burning through her. "Do you know what you've done?" He walked closer, step by step, his voice getting lower and colder. "Do you know how many people you've harmed?" "I know." Lu Ruoxo stood up, lifted her head, looked straight at him, and a cold smile curved at the corner of her mouth. "But General, do you also know what you said to me back then?" She paused, then repeated word by word, "A substitute should have the self-awareness of a substitute. I just wanted to let the general also taste what it is like to be treated as a substitute, then casually discarded." Xiao Jinyan's expression at this moment became extremely ugly. He reached out, suddenly grabbed Lu Ruoxo's collar, lifted her up, his eyes ruthless, his voice pressed extremely low. "You think doing this will get you a good ending?" Lu Ruoxo didn't struggle, only looked at him calmly, that cold smile still hanging on her lips. "General, my ending won't be worse than yours." The two remained in a standoff like this, eyes locked, both filled with hatred and resolution. In the end, Xiao Jinyan let go, pushed her away, turned and strode off, slamming the door of the side courtyard heavily. That sound was like something completely breaking apart. When Shen Qingxi learned of all this, she was sitting in the study, reading through an account book by candlelight. Qingju stood before her, recounting everything that had happened at the general's manor down to the last detail. When she finished, she asked cautiously, "Miss, the general's manor is in such chaos. Shouldn't we make our move now?" Shen Qingxi didn't answer immediately. She simply closed the ledger slowly and placed it on the desk. The candlelight flickered gently, casting her profile in sharp relief. "Make our move," she repeated those two words softly, a faint smile appearing at the corners of her lips. "Qingju, when do you think a hunter strikes with the least effort?" Qingju thought for a moment. "When the prey is exhausted." "Correct." Shen Qingxi stood up and walked to the window, gazing at the deep darkness of the night outside. Xiao Jinyan and Lu Rushe are currently tearing at each other, wearing each other down. We don't need to make a move. We only need to give them one final push at the very end. She turned around, her eyes cold and sharp. "Go fetch those two things." Those two things were the trump cards Shen Qingxi had hidden away for a full 3 months. One was a ledger of Xiao Jingyan's secret dealings with a foreign merchant from the northern frontier. The merchant ostensibly traded in furs, but was actually a foreign spy who specialized in purchasing military intelligence on Dajing. The ledger recorded the time, location, and amount of every transaction Xiao Jinyan made, as well as the military defense information he had leaked. This wasn't a matter of lax military discipline, this was colluding with the enemy. Another item was a batch of weapons that Xiao Jingyan had secretly hidden in a manor on the city outskirts, enough to arm a private army of 3,000 men. Either one of these two things, taken alone, would be enough to cost Xiao Jingyan his head. Shen Qingxi organized them into a booklet, carefully wrapped it in oiled paper, placed it in an inconspicuous wooden box, then changed into plain, simple clothing and had Qingju prepare the carriage. "Miss," Qingju said with some concern, "you're going in person?" Shen Qingxi fastened the ties of her cloak, her tone calm. "This matter, I need to see it through with my own eyes." The carriage left the Shen residence, passed through several streets and alleys, and stopped in front of an unremarkable tea house. Shen Qingxi got off the carriage, walked into the tea house, and sat down at a window seat on the second floor. Before long, a middle-aged man in plain clothes walked in and took a seat across from her. He was a censor from the censorate surnamed Pei, an old friend of Shen Qingxi's father when he was alive. An upright man, he had always been at odds with Xiao Jingyan. Miss Shen, Censor Pei, looked at her, his eyes carrying a trace of complexity. "Are you certain you want to do this? Once these items are submitted, there will be no turning back." "I know." Shen Qingxi pushed the wooden box toward him, her tone calm and resolute. "Lord Pei, my father once said that you were the last censor in the great Jing dynasty who dared to speak the truth. Today, I ask you to speak the truth once more." Censor Pei fell silent for a moment, then reached out and picked up the wooden box. 3 days later, the court was shaken. The censorate impeached Xiao Jingyan for colluding with the enemy and betraying the country, secretly hoarding weapons and plotting rebellion. The evidence was conclusive, irrefutable as a mountain. His Majesty was furious and immediately issued an edict ordering the imperial guards to arrest Xiao Jingyan at once, throw him into heavenly prison, and await trial. The moment the news spread, the entire capital city was in uproar. Shen Qingxi stood on the second floor of Shen residence, gazing at the clouds of dust rising in the direction of the general's manor. In the distance, that was the dust kicked up by horse hooves, trampling over the cobblestone roads as the imperial guards mobilized. She watched quietly without speaking. Qingju stood behind her and couldn't help but ask in a low voice, "Miss, does your heart feel any better?" Shen Qingxi fell silent for a moment before slowly speaking. "Qingju, do you know what the one thing I regret most in this life is?" Qingju shook her head. "It is that I understood too late." Shen Qingxi's voice was soft and calm. "Some people were never worth my weakness from the very beginning." She turned around, a genuine, relieved smile appearing at the corners of her lips. "Let's go to the accounting office. Let's reconcile this month's accounts." Qingju froze for a moment, then broke into a smile through her tears and hurriedly followed. On the second day after Xiao Jingyan was thrown into heavenly prison, Shen Qingxi received an invitation card. The card bore no signature, only a single line. "Miss Shen, Prince Zhao requests your presence tomorrow at noon in the Imperial Garden." Shen Qingxi looked at the invitation card, her brows moving slightly. Prince Zhao, she was no stranger to this name. The eldest son of the Great Jing dynasty, the emperor's most favored candidate for crown prince, 28 years of age, accomplished in both civil and military arts. It was said he had a steady temperament and handled matters thoroughly among the younger generation at court. He was the most difficult person to see through. She didn't know what Prince Zhao wanted with her, but she knew this invitation could not be refused. In the imperial garden, the plum blossoms were in full bloom. As Shen Qingqi entered the garden, she saw a man dressed in dark, everyday robes standing with his hands behind his back beneath an old plum tree, his back to her, gazing at the distant palace walls. Hearing footsteps, he slowly turned around. It was Shen Qingqi's first time meeting Prince Xiao, Xiaoheng. He was extremely handsome, with deep-set features and distinct contours. He carried an air of natural authority without anger. Yet in his eyes there was none of that arrogance of those accustomed to looking down on everything. Instead, there was a hint of calm scrutiny that she hadn't expected. He observed her and she observed him. "Miss Shen," he spoke, his voice low and steady, "I've long admired you. Your Highness Prince Zhao." Shen Qingqi curtsied, her tone neither humble nor arrogant. "I wonder what matter your Highness has summoned me for?" Xiaoheng didn't answer immediately. He simply walked a few steps closer, stopping in front of her, lowering his head to look at her, his eyes holding a complicated emotion that was difficult to describe. "This king wants to ask you something," he said. "Those 2 pieces of evidence against Xiao Jingyan, you were the one who submitted them." This was not a question but a statement. Shen Qingqi did not deny it, only looked at him calmly. "Yes." "Aren't you afraid this king will hold you accountable for privately submitting evidence and bypassing proper procedures?" "I am." Shen Qingqi looked directly at him, her tone calm. "But I'm more afraid that if I went through proper procedures, the evidence would vanish without a trace before reaching His Majesty." Xiaoheng fell silent for a moment, then the corner of his mouth moved slightly, an extremely restrained smile, almost imperceptible. "Miss Shen," he said, "you are more interesting than this king imagined." Shen Qingxi did not respond, only waited quietly for him to continue. "This king summoned you today," Xiaoheng put away that trace of a smile, his expression returning to calm, "to tell you that Xiao Jingyan's case has far-reaching implications. Some people at court want to take advantage of the chaos to fish in troubled waters and drag some innocent people down with him. Among them is the Shen residence." Shen Qingxi's eyes narrowed slightly. "Somebody wants to use Xiao Jingyan's case to label the Shen residents as accomplices in order to seize the Shen family's assets." Xiaoheng's voice was calm and clear. "This king has come today to give you a choice." "What choice?" "This king can keep the Shen residents safe," he paused. "But Miss Shen, you need to help this king with something." Shen Qingqi looked at him, her gaze cold and sharp, not speaking immediately. She was waiting for him to finish. "The military situation in the northern border," Xiaoheng's voice dropped a few notches. "Xiao Jingyan colluded with the enemy and leaked a large amount of defense deployment information. The northern border's defense line needs to be reorganized. This king needs someone to help this king sort through Xiao Jingyan's military account books from these past years, find those places where he tampered with things, and recalculate the shortfall in military funds. For this matter," he looked directly at Shen Qingqi, "this king needs someone trustworthy to do it. And you," he said, "are the most suitable person this king has seen so far." Shen Qingxi fell silent for a moment. "Why does your Highness trust me?" she asked. "We've never met before." "Because," in Xiaoheng's eyes was a calm yet certain light, "a woman who can, within 3 months, pull down someone like Xiao Jingyan from the peak of power is either this king's enemy, or the person this king's enemy, or the person this king needs most. This king bets you're the latter." Shen Qingqi looked at him, saying nothing for a long while. Then, slowly, she curved her lips into a smile. "Your Highness's wager," she said softly, "this subject accepts." After that day, Shen Qingqi began frequently entering and leaving Prince Zhao's manor, under the pretext of assisting in verifying military fund accounts, working together with Prince Zhao's advisors to sort out the mess left behind by Xiao Jingyan. The first time she saw General Wei was in the council hall of Prince Zhao's mansion. He was a tall, handsome young general, around 27 or 28 years old, wearing a somewhat worn suit of armor with a standard issue sword hanging at his waist. He stood before the sand table discussing the defense deployment of the northern frontier with several advisors. His speech was concise, his thinking clear, every sentence went straight to the point, without a single wasted word. Shen Qingqi stood at the doorway, listened for a moment, then walked in. She stopped in front of the sand table, pointed at a certain location, and said, "The shortage in military supplies here is 30% more than what is shown on the books." In the council hall, everyone stopped and looked at her. General Wei also turned his head to look at her, a trace of surprise in his eyes, followed by scrutiny. "How do you know?" he asked, his voice steady. "Because," Shen Qingqi took out a sheet of paper from her sleeve and placed it beside the sand table. Xiao Junyan has kept 2 sets of books for the accounts of these military supplies. This is the official account, and that is the hidden account. In the hidden account, this 30% of military supplies was quietly moved by him under the name of military equipment wear and tear. General Wei lowered his head, glanced at the paper, his brows furrowing slightly before relaxing again. He raised his head, looked at Shen Qingqi, and the scrutiny in his eyes gradually transformed into something else. "What is your name?" he asked Shen Qingqi. He fell silent for a moment, then nodded, his tone calm yet carrying a barely perceptible note of approval. "Miss Shen, please have a seat." Over the following month, Shen Qingqi and General Wei met almost daily in the council hall of Prince Zhao's manor. Between them, there were no tender words of love, no deliberately manufactured romance-only ledgers spread out on the tables, repeated debates about defensive deployments in the northern frontier, and occasionally, when their opinions diverged, silent standoffs where neither would yield. Once the two argued for a full hour over a military supplies allocation plan, with neither willing to back down. In the end, it was Prince Zhao who walked in, glanced at the two of them, then at the sand table, and said calmly, "General Wei's plan is more efficient in wartime. Miss Shen's plan conserves military resources better in peacetime. Both plans are correct." He paused, the corner of his mouth twitching slightly. "So the two of you together are just right." The council hall fell silent for a moment. Then General Wei turned his head and glanced at Shen Qingqi. Shen Qingqi also glanced at him. Neither spoke, yet both, as if by tacit agreement, looked away. The case of Xiao Junyan finally reached its conclusion 3 months later. Colluding with the enemy and betraying the nation, secretly hoarding weapons, plotting treason, 3 major crimes with ironclad evidence. His Majesty issued an edict, strip Xiao Junyan of all positions and titles, confiscate his family assets, imprison him in heavenly prison, and execute him after autumn. Lu Ruoxie, as an accomplice, was sentenced to exile in the northern borderlands, never to return to the capital. On the day Lu Ruoxie was escorted out of the capital, Shen Qingqi did not go to watch. She sat in the study of the Shen residence, a cup of tea beside her, gazing at the clear sky outside the window. Qingju walked in and said softly, "Miss, the cousin's prison cart just passed through the city gate." Shen Qingqi hummed in acknowledgement without saying anything. "Miss," Qingju hesitated, "don't you want to go see her off?" "See what?" Shen Qingqi picked up the teacup, took a light sip, her tone calm. "She walks her path, I live my life." Something like hatred, she set down the teacup, her eyes clear and calm, can be used to drive oneself forward, but if used to fill oneself up, that would be too much of a waste. Qingju was stunned for a moment, then her eyes reddened slightly as she said in a low voice, "Miss, you've really changed so much." Shen Qingqi glanced at her, a trace of genuine smile appearing at the corner of her lips. "Changed for better or for worse?" "Become stronger," Qingju said earnestly. Shen Qingqi didn't respond, only turned her head to continue gazing at the sky outside the window. That sky was so deeply, distantly blue, as if it had no end. Replacing the legitimate with the concubine-born Di and Shu are core concepts used to distinguish the status of children in the ancient Chinese patriarchal clan system. Children born to the legal wife, principal wife, are called Di-born, holding the highest status and enjoying all priorities and inheritance rights and nominal position, while children born to secondary wives or concubines are called Shu-born, with status lower than Di-born. Replacing Di with Shu means having a Shu-born person or someone of lowly birth impersonate or substitute for the identity of a Di-born person, exercising nominal position and rights that do not belong to them. In matters of marriage, this act not only violates ritual law, but is also regarded as a serious offense against the legitimate order, constituting a grave crime of deceiving superiors and concealing from subordinates.